Okay, Julie, thanks for being here today.
Thanks
for your
having
time.
me.
I appreciate it. I know you are a busy lady. You wear a lot of hats. So this is Julie Reddington with Colorado Home Realty. Why don't you give us your elevator pitch for kind of what you do and who you are?
Yeah, I came here, as you can tell by the accent, not a local. Moved here in 2005 for what was meant to be 2 years, and obviously 2 years crept into our 19th year. Back in the day, I wanted to do something that was done very differently, and I've always loved houses, and so real estate felt like a very natural career to kind of train under in the American system. And obviously I never went back, and so we've grown up here. I have evolved into all sorts of different other hats, as well as, real estate. My other kind of side gig right now, what I call my passion project, is heading up a women's connection group in Highlands Ranch. It's actually a international company.
Polka Dot Powerhouse?
Yeah, Polka Dot Powerhouse,
cool.
yes.
I like that name.
Yeah, and I've been in the position nearly 12 months now, and I just love it. It's been a wonderful way to connect with women. We're not preliminary business owners. There are some that just want friendship, connection. And it's been a nice platform in which to build this community, which I just feel like we need so much right now.
I agree. Yeah, we were talking about that before. Just connecting people and building community is kind of both of our passions. So how we ended up here, probably how we ended up connecting. Definitely want to talk about Polka Dot, but I have some real estate questions too. But so tell me a little bit about your childhood, just so people can know kind of how you ended up here. You said you thought you were coming here for 2 years. So you grew up in the UK. Was it in London?
No, I'm from a place I was born in Manchester. I'm an only child. Don't judge me. I always say that they made me and made perfection and stopped there.
They're like, that's perfect. We don't need any more.
We don't need any more. My parents are still married to this day. They're my inspiration. Had a very
How long have they been married?
I think it's coming up for about 55 years.
Wow. Holy
yeah.
cow.
Yeah. Okay. And so I had a very normal, nice childhood, which I feel now when I speak to others, it's like, gosh, I was very blessed, with that. In the UK, and I think still to this day, we tend to do things sooner, and there isn't still the expectation to do university. So I left school at 18 and went to work.
Okay.
And
you said you graduated high school at 16. That's pretty common there.
Well, yeah, so we have high school up to 16, and then at 16 you can choose to go on to what we call college for 2 years, and then at 18 you can go on to university until you're 21. So I didn't do the university, but just before I left college, I met my now husband. I actually met him in an elevator in London, of all places. What
was he doing there?
Well, we were both doing what we call A-levels. We were doing an A-level revision course. And, when I just look at the factors of us meeting, it was definitely something bigger than because the chance of us meeting was so slim. I kind of knew when I saw him, he was the one.
Wow,
and
when you saw him.
When I saw him.
True love at first sight?
I chatted him up. I was kind of a woman. I know what I'm going after here.
Okay.
So I met him when I was 18. We were engaged. I was engaged when I was 21. We bought our first house at 21. I was married by 23.
Yeah.
Very young in today's world.
Yeah, I got married really young too.
And then we had the 2 girls. And then by the time we got to kind of get into our 30s, we were kind of itching to do something just a bit different.
Yeah.
And
what were y'all doing before then? Up until then?
We were just working.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you said insurance.
Yeah, I was in insurance. Okay. My husband, he had a job at the Royal Mail post office back then, and life was just simple and it was good. We had our 2 holidays a year, everything was ticking along nicely, but we just had this And it's funny, kind of at the end of the late 90s, early 2000s, I felt like in the UK there was a bit of a movement happening and people were wanting to move abroad.
Okay.
And
the US specifically?
No, mostly to Europe, France, Spain. All these TV shows kind of popped up about A Place in the Sun and just start, moving everything for, quote, a simpler life.
Yeah.
And our best friends also had the same dream as ours. We researched this. We were moving to France. We knew which area in France we wanted to move to. And there was two slight issues. One, we didn't speak the language. Yeah. And the second was we didn't have jobs. But our friends actually went ahead and did it. And they're still there to this day in the south of France. But for us, unbeknown to me, my husband was talking to his company here in Denver. And cut a long story short, he just came home one day and said, I've been offered a job in America. So we were like, okay, let's do it. This was it made sense. We kind of speak the same language.
Yeah.
And
I can understand you just fine.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
Not everyone can. And so, and obviously he had a job. So it was meant to be a 2-year stint. And I have grown like a British community here as well. And I kind of joke now that whenever, and there's a lot moving over here still, and all of them say, yeah, we're just here for 2 years. And I feel like saying I need the T-shirt that has...
I was just here for 2 years.
Yeah, it was only meant to be 2 years because, I don't know, somehow life creeps up on you here and you get settled.
So you get here and you decide to get into real estate.
Yes. Well, I couldn't work for a year and then for visa reasons. And then I was looking for something as well because the girls at the time were little, 6 and 3 when we moved. And so it was important to me that anything I did evolved around them first because we were in a strange country. We didn't know anyone. We didn't have babysitters. We didn't have that infrastructure at all. So for me, it was important to have a career that was... And again, the universe blessed me with a woman came into my life because I knew nothing about real estate. I mean, again, it's done so differently. And I knew I had to start at the very bottom.
Yeah. What was the attraction for you?
I just love houses. I mean, even now, I just love going in people's houses. And I guess it's part of like one of my values is connection. And it's kind of a connecting activity. And just helping people with that. And a community is another one of my values. So it's helping people if they're moving here to get them, try and get them established. Because I know that if you're not happy at home, then it affects everything. We rented for 2 years and it was very unsettling. And so just that power of home ownership, I mean, they say it's the American dream, but there's just something very settling about having a house, home in instincts, and all of that. And I was very blessed to just, I mean, again, it was back in the day, I think there was still jobs were in newspapers, or Craigslist was kind of the way that back then.
You're talking like 2005?
This was 2006 now. Yeah. And I applied for this admin job on a team, and the woman, she always joked, she always said, oh, you interviewed me, not the other way around. But she was an incredible woman, and I'm very blessed. Again, looking back, people come into your lives for reasons. She came into mine. It wasn't long enough, but it was enough for me to respect this woman. She had, she'd built up a real estate empire. She was a single parent. She'd had 5 kids. She was just incredible. And I always look back at her to this day as another mentor that was just, helped me shape my career here. And of course we got into it 2008, 2009, it was not looking good.
Yeah, that was tough. Tough time to get into real estate.
I know. And as everyone was leaving the industry, here was me running into the industry, and I got my license at the end of...
Sometimes it's better to zag when everyone's zigging,
Right. Well, that's, I agree. It's when everyone's running away, you run in. And so I got my license. Everyone said, oh, you should get your license, And I was like, no, I'm moving back.
Oh, yeah.
And when we realized that probably we weren't going to move back, I got my license and life was just getting into familiarity.
Yeah. They say those first 2 years of real estate are kind of the hardest when you're building up a network. Was that tough for you?
Yeah, I think any business, it takes 2 years to build up trust, just really with people that you know. And then I think 5 years is the time that I think if you can make it to 5 years, then you'll thrive.
That's funny you said that. My first 2 years of my business, it was just a side hustle. And then probably it was 5 years before I went full time, and then it became I was making more from my side hustle than my job. And then I was like, why am I still doing this job? I should just do my side hustle now.
Yeah.
But 5 years was kind of the mark for me. And then it was a big leap, going full time, doing full time video and leaving my 9 to 5. But, that's very true. So 18 years now doing real estate. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How has the real estate market in Denver changed? I mean, you've been through a lot of different ups and downs, but what has changed the most about real estate in Denver?
I mean, obviously the market, we had a great run. I mean, from 2012 to 2022, I mean, they say things come in cycles, 7 to 10 years. Yeah. We obviously saw a lot of people get into the industry. I think when I first started, there was 11,000 agents, and I think today there's about 40,000 agents. So a lot look at our career as, this is easy money. We can do it. There's all these glamorous shows that make it look super easy.
Yeah. So you just show some homes and then collect a commission, sign a contract.
Exactly.
And then,
There's nothing more to
Make a few
it,
phone calls.
Exactly. Drive up in your nice car and you get out in your high heels and everything. But and now my husband, he joined me in the business. He was in the corporate world up until 2018, and he left there, and he was kind of like, okay, what do we do next? And we said, well, let's join forces with this.
And do you guys actually work together a lot? Or are you kind of doing your own things mostly?
So we have our roles, for sure. And it's taken a few years to kind of figure out, what those roles look like. But I think, for me, I'm super passionate about the contracts and the actual physical bits of the real estate transaction. And this is what you don't see. He does all like the unglamorous bits. He'll be there helping sellers get themselves ready. I mean, physically moving stuff out. He's been in crawl spaces, clearing stuff out. We're cleaning houses, you name it. We put all the hats on to make sure that our sellers are getting all the help that they need, because it's a very emotional business. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize, is just the emotions of helping families or first-time home buyers or whoever it is.
I mean, it's a huge transaction. So there's a lot of their wealth is tied up in this transaction.
Probably the biggest financial transaction most people ever do.
For sure.
And so they don't realize just the hand-holding that's needed, the talking people off cliffs, the trying to help them get them moving to that next step. Because we're seeing a lot right now, and the trends, kind of show over time. But like I'm seeing right now, there's a lot of people who have been in the houses a long time. I kind of joke that we're like crabs in that we grow into our spaces and we fill every nook and cranny. And then a time comes and you're like, this house is too much for us now, and we need to kind of quote downsize. But it's very hard to downsize right now. I call it right sizing. Because to downsize is very tricky.
How come?
Because the values of homes, and if you think about it, as a first-time home buyer, you're just grateful for a front door and a roof. The more houses, the more you go through in life, you kind of have a minimum expectation of what you want. So it's very hard to. It's
funny how we do, or just the nature of humans. Like, moved into this house, and this was like the nicest house that we ever owned, and we're like, this is great, this is so fantastic. And then a year in, you start to like nitpick things, and I wish we had this, I wish we had that. And, you like stop enjoying what you have, and you start to like dream about making it better and making it bigger and moving into the next bigger house.
I know. know.
Crazy.
And I think
It's
as well,
nature.
we've kind of grown with our sphere of people. So it was that, when we were in our 30s and 40s, it was the people moving up into the long-term house. But now there's a trend coming through, and I think probably since COVID, of that people can work from home more, and the world is their oyster, and they're going and they're looking at these big houses going, we don't need this anymore. And let's
smaller families too.
Yeah, I mean, you grow into the big house and then everybody leaves, and it's like, why are we in 3,000, 4,000 square feet of house?
Two of us.
It doesn't make sense. I hope my husband's not listening to this, because he'll be like, right, we're moving. And that's the trend I'm kind of seeing now is that there's also those that are going, we don't have to stay here anymore. Let's have a simpler life. Let's move into something that's suitable for the two of us, and then we'll take that money and go and buy somewhere fun, you know.
Buy an RV.
Whatever it is. No, I'm not buying an RV.
That's what my parents did. They bought an RV and retired and just drive around in that.
Yeah. I like the sound of that house on the beach in Newport that you were talking about.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know what those are going for.
Wherever that is, yeah.
It's nice. 3 houses away from the beach. So it's like, you don't have to deal with all the people walking in front of your porch all the time, but you're right there. So
yeah.
Me too. That's a dream, but I'm a long way away from affording that.
Yeah.
We'll just rent it a couple weeks out of the year. That'll be us.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you, but I got my real estate license. I told you I moved to Austin, but I got my real estate license, and when the pandemic hit, it's because my business just shut down. Right. I was like, well, and I had a lot of friends in the industry, and they all told me like, you would love it, you would do really well, and I was like, all right, I got a lot of time on my hands. Let me just go get my license. So I did in Texas. I tried it for 6 months and just was like, this isn't for me. Doing so much work with no guarantee of getting paid was really difficult for me to swallow, because I'm used to like project, get paid, finish the project, get paid, move along to the next one. And these were like, I was spending hours, days of my life looking for houses for these people with no guarantee. This is in the middle of the pandemic when like everyone was flooding to Austin, and it was so hard. And I remember my first, person that, my first client was moving to Austin, and they had a great healthy budget, but they thought they were going to get this, and prices were going up faster than, and it was just a really struggle. And so I was like, I think I'm going to go back to video. I had some clients calling me like, hey, I think we're ready to shoot some videos now. I was like, all right, I think I'll do that. Instead. I couldn't hang.
They said it's probably one of the few careers that, you don't get paid until it closes.
There's a big risk.
And you can spend, spend a lot of time with people, and there's no guarantee that you're going to get
they can
paid
just change
at the end
their mind.
of it.
They can just, work you for months and then change their mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure that happens. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about, there was a big settlement that you just came out with, the real estate commissions and stuff. How was that? Can you maybe explain that to someone who doesn't know what it is, and then maybe talk about how that you feel like that's going to affect you guys?
Yeah. So the lawsuit came about because somebody decided that it didn't seem right that a seller was paying. So with commissions, there's 2 sides to that commission. There's what you would pay a listing agent, and then there's what you would pay a buyer's agent. So they decided that they felt they hadn't been made aware that this buyer's agent's fee was an option. And they also felt that there was some like price fixing that goes on, because there is a traditional model. You'll hear it's 6%, and however however that's broken down. Yeah. So on Friday, NAR settled, and it had been decided that basically the buyer's agent fee is now removed from the MLS. So whereas we knew as agents, so if we're showing houses, we would look in that buyer agent compensation, and it would say what the seller is willing to pay. Now, the fact of the matter is, it's always been negotiable. Like a seller has never had to pay a buyer's agent. But I think I guess time will tell. For me, I just sit listening to all this and I'm just rolling my eyes going, this is just making our lives harder on a system that worked. And I don't think it's really going to change anything. Personally, we've just got to now find a way to...
just adding an extra step.
So the MLS can't put the average commission for a buyer's agent in Colorado is usually 2.8%. So that can't appear in MLS. But there's nothing to say, and I'm sure some bright spark out there is working on this right now. Someone said, why don't you do this? I'm like, I've not got the time or the technology to do it. But if anyone's listening, this is what you should be doing, is to create a website, an independent website that can put the buyer's agent fee in there. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Could you link that on the MLS?
Who knows? Who knows what? Because I don't think MLS are allowed to do this, but there's and again, it's still, they have until July to figure out.
It's just sort of an extra step.
And sellers still have the right. I mean, they can go to a discount.
The idea is that you can, that the seller is going to have all the equity, and they're going to have a big payday coming, so that they would be able to afford both commissions, and the person buying the home isn't going to have the cash to pay for all of it. So to get the transaction done, the seller has always just paid that. And I think it made a lot of sense when home prices were probably lower. Now I think the complaint is that home prices have gone up so much and the percentage has stayed the same. So it's a big expense to the seller. So I understand why some sellers, I think agents are worth it because I got my real estate agent license and I couldn't hack it. And I know how hard it is.
It's
and how much
almost
work
like
it is.
everyone's got to go through all the doubters out there. It's like, as part of your education at school.
I think good agents are worth it.
Yes.
Because I've had a bad agent, and I think that, both, I would look at them and say, like, oh yeah, they didn't really do very much, and they probably shouldn't get 3%, because they didn't do what they should have done, but all the good ones, all the ones worth, are worth it.
And I think this is where I think this will be a good thing. At first on Friday, I think we were all a bit paralyzed and we were like, we're never going to earn any money again. And then as the fear kind of goes away and you kind of think of this, I think it's going to show the true professionals, those who can have the good conversations with the buyers and sellers, and again, they're in the driving seat as to how they have the right to say, a buyer, I would sit down with a buyer and say, okay, there's a good chance the seller may not pay the commission. Are you willing to do that? And that buyer can say, yeah, I have the money to do that, or no, let's just not look at houses where the seller, and that's the thing, that the seller has the choice, but a buyer can opt to not look at those houses.
The numbers will probably all work out the exact same.
Right. Because I think, it's like for sale by owners right now. They always think, oh, you can save this money, but statistically for sale by owners always lose money, even though they think they're saving money.
They don't know how to market it,
so... Yeah, I'm not too worried. We've just got to work out the mechanics, and just I've been very blessed to be part of an amazing brokerage, have an incredible managing broker, Matt Hudson. He's grown an amazing company, and so we're way ahead of just being on these conversations and just making everyone feel happy about, at the end of the day, you've got choices.
Yeah, and it's negotiable. It's always been negotiable, but now it's just a little more transparent, I guess. And you have to have that conversation. I'm sure you had to have that conversation before, but it's... Yeah,
we never quite did with like the buyer agencies. So like I say, I think this is a good thing because it's actually making us now become more disciplined in our conversations and our practices and our structures. Where, we could have got a bit complacent. So
it's a big shift for sure. I also think a lot about technology and how it's impacting our business and what we're doing, with video and the video and photo world. But my experience with real estate, also the tons of technology coming out, websites, all the big tech players who are coming out and buying up houses, the Open Doors and Redfins of the world. Are there any technologies that you guys are using that you're excited about, or is it mostly things that are kind of coming for the agents? Well,
again, I've been doing this long enough to know that usually some boulder coming at you, ready to hit you and threaten you. And I feel like every year there's something new, you know, of oh, this is going to be the new model. And then it just seems to
always kind of come back,
kind of go on by, you know, and people still need, again, it boils down to you still need connection. I still think you need a human there, because it is an emotional business still. And, you know, who's going to talk you off the cliff if nobody's there to kind of hold your hand throughout it? People don't see that side of our business, and it's about protection. I mean, that's why I love the American model. I mean, in the UK, they don't have like buyer agency over there.
Oh, really?
So, and that was one of the reasons I'd got into it in the first place. And then last week I was thinking, oh my God, it's
so what do buyers do? They just buy it themselves? They just go see the
no
homes
representation.
Okay.
Yeah. So like solicitors over there, they handle the paperwork of it all. Yeah, I met with a company last year when I was out there in London, and we were kind of just, you know, sat around, and they were like, I can't believe you can do this. And I'm like, well, I can't believe you can do that. And, so it was kind of a funny conversation of you know, the different systems. But it does work well. I mean, again, buyers, they need somebody there, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And it only...
Especially first-time home buyers. You have no clue what you're looking at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No clue what you're looking for. You don't understand the order of operations, like, you know, why you need to pay. Like, you know, inspectors can be expensive, but, like, they're so necessary. You know, they're going to catch things for you and save you a ton of money in the long run.
Yeah.
So you just don't know those things. So there's just, I think because homes are, like, physical spaces also, and, like, you need to, like, walk around and experience it, I just don't think there's ever going to be, like, a website or software that can replace someone holding your hand as you walk through the house and pointing things out and talking about things and talking about the neighborhood. Software's never going to know, you know, can walk around and look at the neighborhood and understand the situation, you know.
And we're the real estate agents, we are a big population now. And so I think if we collectively get together, it's very hard for some of these industries to actually bulldoze us over, because, I mean, that was it last week. I was like, if we all just jump on board the same conversation that we're having with the sellers, everything's going to carry on as normal. You know, so we have that community, which is powerful. Yeah.
How big is your brokerage?
We're about 100.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great size.
Yeah.
And what part of Denver do you operate in mostly?
Well, I live in Highlands Ranch, and, you know, so most of my business is from referrals, so most of it comes in this area, but we go all over the place. Well, I say, that's where I said we. Did you see I changed from I to we? Because I sent my husband out on the, so we've helped people in Breckenridge, you know, Longmont, Colorado Springs.
Okay, so you guys get around.
I mean, the most of our business is local, because it's the people that we know.
You said almost all your business is word of mouth, referrals. Do you do much marketing?
So when I first got into the business, and again, Craigslist, I was the queen of Craigslist ads, because that was my job. And that was, so the model that I first got into, and with this woman that I mentored under, you know, she was watching the market, and she changed her whole business model to fix and flips. Because back in 2010, we were selling bank homes, we were selling short sales. You know, one of my first deals was like a 50,000 home in Denver.
Oh, wow.
And I thought this was amazing. You know, this check I came out with, I think it was like 1,500. And I was like, oh, this gets me 4 flights back to the UK, you know. And I always say to any agent, I was like, you know, just, you've got to do everything. You've got to hustle and everything. But the model back then was, she was pulling in investors, and so they were strangers. So it was very much a lead generation business, and that was all I knew was lead generation. So cold leads. And then when I moved brokerages, so I started off at a brokerage, and then I was there for 2 years. And again, I'm a people person. I needed to be around more people, because again, it can be a very lonely job. And I decided when I was moving brokerages, I said, I want to run with the wolves. I said, I don't care if I'm at the back of the pack, but I want to run with the wolves.
Okay.
And so I I found Colorado Home Realty, but their business model was all about referral. Okay. And this just horrified me. The thought I've got to go and ask friends and family for business. It was like, no, I'm used to just dealing with transactional business.
Yeah.
But then once I got outside of my head and realized that actually building a relationship model, it's a much nicer model to work with people who know you, who trust you, you can help them. And again, it was that 2-year mark. I mean, friends weren't sure to, for anyone new in the business, it's going to take them to build. I often hear, my best friend went with another agent, and I'm like, yeah, it happens because you haven't got the trust in with them yet, and you are going into a very personal space of people's lives. I mean, we see it all. I mean, we're therapists, we're marriage counselors. I've been in closing rooms where I've had to, like, divorce situations where I've had to, like, take the exes into different rooms because it was getting heated. But for me, it's just helping someone that you love, and it just makes the job so much nicer. And I think for any business owner, it's easy to kind of think, how am I getting my business? Like, let's just do all the marketing and all of that. But in my experience, the nicer business comes with those who know you.
Yeah. And, what's interesting is we create content, we do marketing content for people, but still most of our business is referral, and I love that because you already have a connection with them. You don't have to build a lot of rapport, right? It's like, hey, my friend recommended you, and you trust that person. If they're friends with your friend, then you kind of know that they're going to be like a good person to work with. You're off on a good start anyways.
Exactly.
So it's just so much better. It's definitely the way to go. Now, there's nothing wrong with, getting cold leads I think that's how everyone in real estate probably starts, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And drumming up leads.
And it's still part of our business. I mean,
doing open houses.
Yeah, you've got to still, even though I've been doing this, 16 years? No, 18 years. 18. The hustle never leaves you. It never comes easy. You can never take your foot off the pedal at all.
Because there's somebody right behind you coming up.
I know. Yeah. We're not unicorns. Yeah. I say that all the time.
Same.
We are not a unicorn business, and everyone knows probably 15 realtors. So, at times it can break your heart. And I think the other thing nobody ever tells you as an entrepreneur is how much personal development you'll do, how much soul searching, like how do you show up in the world? How do you handle the rejection? And so that's the piece I'm very passionate about, is helping agents to get out of their heads, I think
you're doing a lot of mentoring and training?
Yeah, I've done mentoring for many agents, and run collaboration groups within our office, and I'm very passionate to take those collaboration groups outside into the world, because again, this mentor from in real estate, I remember back in the day, I think this was about 2008, and there was this big thing coming out called The Secret. Have you not heard of The Secret?
I don't.
It's all about, I think it was like a movie, or it was something and basically it was about manifestation. And it was like, if you can put your dreams out there, then the universe will send them. It was quite woo-woo actually for 2008. And for me, this was the first time I'd ever kind of seen anything like this. And she filled this room of agents and taught them all this technique of The Secret. And I said to her, why are you doing this? Why are you bringing in effectively your competition and giving them the secret? And she looked at me and she said, there's always enough business to go around. Yeah. And then she kind of quipped on the end, and most people won't do it anyway. So I was like, okay. But I do
she
believe
seems very wise.
She was. And, but, I believe in power partners. I believe in all supporting each other, and just making us all better, all around humans. And
it's a rising tide situation, right? It's like raises all boats, right?
Right.
Yeah, I kind of operate in the same way. I don't have secrets. happy to teach anyone, even if you're my competition,
Right.
I trust my abilities and my skills enough that I think I can always stay ahead of the competition just a little bit. So
Right.
I always wanted people ahead of me to help me. And I had a few people along the way. So it's like, it's easy to just give back when you've been given.
I sat down with a woman only a few weeks ago and I was telling her all about the polka dots and she came from like a very kind of networking type background, and which I hate. I hate the word networking. It just makes me go, ugh. Because I think you're going to do business with the people that you like and trust, and the connection piece comes first rather than here's my business card, do business with me. And I actually said, I love this world, this polka dot world that I'm in, but honestly, right now, it's not brought me any business. And she looked at me and she said, well, why do you do it then? And I said, because I know the universe will reward me. It's somewhere. It may not necessarily be in that arena.
And it may not be financial.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. It just, it lifts my heart and soul up, and it's, like I say, it's my passion project. I love it. And I think people forget they've got to go, again, we're taught, and especially in my world of real estate, there's so many coaches. This is how you got to do business. You're only going to be successful if you do this. Right. And half of it, I'm like, yeah, there are the fundamentals, but really drilling into your values and and I'm actually doing a talk for the first time next week on this about drilling into your values, because that's what helped change me of like, well, here's who I know I am. And we're all different. We all have different values. Some of us will have overlapping, but everyone will have something different. And that's where I go to, if business is feeling a bit sluggish or I'm in my head a bit more, I'm like, okay, where am I going with this? Which world shall I go and go into today? And it might be the friendship piece, and I'll go, right, let's go have coffee with a friend, and that'll make me feel good. Or community, I do so many events, but that's what fills my heart and soul as well. So
that's awesome. Yeah, you said a couple of things that I wanted to touch more on. You said that you're a connector in the community, and that's what brings you. Where does that come from? Like, why is that one of your values? How did you discover that about yourself?
It's what you're born with.
Yeah.
We all have
When did you recognize that in your...
you don't know it at the time, but then I look back and I go... And again, once I'd done this exercise, which anyone should come and see next Wednesday so I can walk you through it, I look back on my life and I go, oh, that makes total sense. For example, I remember my first day of primary school in the UK. So I was 4 years old. We start school early in the UK. And school was actually my happy place because it embodied all of my values. So it was, so my 4 values are connection, friendship, community, and loyalty. And school, most people look back at, oh, I didn't have a great schooling or what have you. I look back and I had such a wonderful time because I was in my element. And I remember the first day of school, my oldest friend walked in and she was holding her mom's hand and scared to kind of come in. I remember going up to her, grabbing her by the hand and said, come be my friend. And we're still friends to this, so was, reveal my age, that was 46 years ago. Still in contact with many friends from school, work back in the UK, because that's what's important to me. And even here, I didn't know one person when I moved to America. I hadn't even been to America when my husband brought me out here. We hadn't even been on a visit.
Did you guys visit before you moved?
No, he just brought me out.
You just moved here. You didn't even visit.
No, and I said to him I
guess you thought it was only going to be 2 years.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense, I guess. If you're like, we're just going for 2 years.
And Denver back in 2005 was a very different place. People, bearing in mind, I come from the third biggest city in the UK. And then I'm seeing people walk down 16th Street Mall with cowboy hats and boots on, and I'm like, where am I? have I come back in time?
Good thing you didn't move to Texas. It really would have blown your mind.
No, so very culturally, but I didn't. So everything I knew of my value system had been stripped away from me. We didn't have...
You had to start all over.
And we didn't have... Facebook wasn't a thing back then. All the easy ways to connect nowadays. Phones were still kind of old
and,
and all of that. So it really was a time for me of I don't want to say I'm not somebody who wallows around, but it was tough, tough in a nice way, in a first world problem way, but I had to start again.
Well, you've made a great life for yourself here, so
we
we are glad to have you as Americans. So let's talk about Polkadot a little bit. How long have you been involved with Polkadot? When did it start? And just tell me more about it. So
the and again, it was a universal send. The actual organization, I think, is 8 years old. I might be wrong.
And it's international. It's really big.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly in America. There is a chapter in the UK. There's one in Canada. There's one in Australia.
Did you start the UK?
No, I didn't. Okay. I hadn't even heard of the Polkadots until it was October 22. Hadn't even heard of them. And again, I was looking for something new in my life, but both the girls had left home. And I knew for my business, I needed, as we call, fresh blood in the system. And I needed to go out and meet more people, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And so I was kind of looking for a group, and it's very easy to fall into the traditional networking kind of groups. But I've been a part of some of them, and they just were not me at all. I mean, it was just, I'd have to drag myself there, and it just wasn't a good feeling for me, and all of that. And that's not to say they have the places for people. It's just whatever your personality is, and it just wasn't mine. And then I heard that the Highlands Ranch chapter was looking for a new managing director. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I've led other groups and things through work and all of that. But started the application process, and they were like, well, you have to kind of just be a member for at least 2 months before you can apply to be an MD.
You're giving them your application to join and your application for the job.
Yeah. And then, so I had to go through the whole 2-month process, and then I thought, oh, someone else will probably step in, and the role was waiting for me. Had to go through a pretty intense application process to get the role. I mean, they take it seriously.
It's good, because
they want people to succeed. And and I hadn't interviewed in years,
right.
And, and all that. So I had to go back to all that and feeling in my head and dread and all of that. And anyway, I finally got the job. It's nearly 12 months ago. So I took the job on, and I've grown it. I mean, I think we've had.
So you have a Highlands Ranch chapter?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I call it South Denver, really, because we pull in Littleton, Castle Rock, Aurora, Parker. So really, it's the whole of South Denver, but technically we are a Highlands Ranch chapter.
And what sort of women does it attract?
Well, again, you attract what you want to attract. So the women I've attracted have just been incredible women. I'm a big proponent in girl power, and it saddens me when I hear people and it's hard to make friends nowadays. I mean, I heard of I think it's not Tinder, but it's one of those apps that you can now pay for a best friend, to find friends on.
Yeah, I've heard of this too. It's Tinder, best friends Tinder.
Yeah. And not judging the people that do it, because it is a genuine need right now that people don't know where to go. Like, if you're not part of a church or, I mean, I think kids help with meeting people, but if you're not at that stage of your life where you don't have kids, it's very hard to move somewhere and go, where can I go? And I've just I've had various groups before the Polkadot thing, so it kind of merged my worlds together. I've been running women's groups and since 2018, obviously COVID put a little bit of a dampener on things, but just having women speakers come in, it was just a place to connect. And I know the power of friendship and connection, and so it's just given me the platform in which my values are brought to the table and I can really shine in it. And again, the women, it's not all business women. I mean, 90% have a business.
Okay.
But there is also a few that, again, just want connection, want friendship. And we're about abundance as well.
You hang out with business owners, that 10% will probably start their own business.
Well, there are some that are kind of like a mums like me going, I want to do something next and I don't know what that is. And yeah, it could just be, I always say the universe will deliver what you need to. And you just don't know who's going to walk into your life the next day and go, that's it. That's the new business. That's my new friend.
Yeah.
That new friend will help change things. The friends who are in the south of France, they were the ones who changed our trajectory on life. I wonder, had we met them, would we still, and nothing wrong with, I love where I'm from and everything else, but they had this vision themselves and kind of got
planted
us.
that seed in you.
Right. Yeah.
Move
So
abroad.
you just don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's wrap it up here. And I got some fun, just rapid fire questions so that people can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
And then I want you to just kind of tell people where they can find you. So what is one book that you think everyone should read?
This isn't rapid fire. I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of all the books out there.
Okay.
I go into historical fiction books.
Okay.
That's my escape. So
That's
I
fun.
can't say, I think the only one I can really think of is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
That was probably the first book I read of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm not the biggest proponent of...
You have a favorite series, a historical fiction series?
There's certain authors, anything historical with a crown in it, I'm reading it or watching it. I've watched, I think I lived those lives and it's my happy place is a castle back in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So anything in that is where I'm at.
All right. A hobby that you want to try, but you never have, that you haven't.
Oh, that I haven't tried. I mean, the thing is I used to dance and I haven't danced in a long time.
So you'd like to pick that back up?
That's never leaves you.
Okay.
But I'm not very adventurous.
Have you tried pickleball yet?
No, I don't know.
That's so fun. All right. Is there a TV show that you can watch over and over again?
The Tudors.
Okay.
Anything historical.
Okay.
I've run out of all the shows. I've watched them all. Yeah. Anything with a good battle and blood and gore or someone's guts being, pulled out. Yeah.
Were you into Game of Thrones then?
I did like Game of Thrones. It was a little bit fantasy for me, but I did appreciate it. Yeah.
It needs to be grounded in more reality.
Right. Yeah. The Tudors kind of encompasses a lot of that.
Okay. And then if you could teleport anywhere right now, where would you go?
London.
Okay. Yeah, you
I didn't even skip a beat.
You love it.
Oh,
I love how
London.
much you love the motherland.
Yeah.
And then what's a piece of advice or wisdom that stuck with you and that maybe you'd want to share?
Just be yourself. Yeah, very simple. I think as you go into a business world, and again for me, real estate, we were thrown all these. You got to do it this way. You should do it this way. You're not going to be good if you don't do it that way. You know what you got to do. You just got to hustle.
Yeah, and just figure out who you are. Yeah, and lean on that.
That's the hard bit, and that's
you'll
what
attract people who
don't.
like that, and that'll just make your life and business so much easier.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Why don't you tell people where they can find you and how they can reach out to you? Well,
real estate, our website is thereddingtons.com. And then for the polka dots, it's just polkadotpowerhouse.com. And then look for the Highlands Ranch chapter and you'll find all the information in there.
Okay. And then your Brits in Denver?
Oh, we have a Brits in Denver. Yeah, I forgot that one. And I'm about to hit the button to welcome in our 1,000 member in the Brits in Denver Facebook group.
Wow, 1,000 new members?
Well, 1,000 members total.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think we're more than that because I have one that started, which was called the Bee Gees, which is the British girls.
Okay. So you got to try to merge those two somehow.
Yeah, so I've got the Brits in Denver. We're just about to hit our Brits in Denver.
Well, thanks for including them in too.
Yeah, we did have a BBs, but they were never as good as the Bee Gees. So I thought let's
combine the powers.
And half the BBs were Bee Gees because the BBs don't have Facebook profiles. And so I was like, let's just do Brits in Denver.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're a moving force. I mean, I must add in 3 or 4 a week at the minute. It's crazy.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So
there is a website, Brits in Denver, where you can find us. And then there's a Facebook group, which is where the party happens.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Take care.
Yeah.